Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here. Why do I look like Freddie Munster? I'm like white as can be. I look like the dad from fucking the goddamn Munsters over here.
You are very white.
I look like Eddie Munster.
Okay. First of all, you're white.
First of all, I got a little.
Accept it. You have red, which means you're very white. You have blonde hair and blue eyes. I'm sorry. You don't have enough melanin in your skin. I'm sorry. Not my fault. So, guys, we know we had so many technical difficulties. We were supposed to start an hour ago.
Yeah.
We know that Jimmy's on with Robert Kennedy.
Yeah.
We actually, when we went to see Jimmy on the, when was it, like a few days ago?
Friday.
He told us, and, you know, it's really exciting. Dr. McCullough has been out there now getting a lot of play. Obviously, that's only on Rokfin only. So I'm sure he'll be getting a lot of people to watch that. But we are gonna, you know what? We're not gonna do the whole thing today. We're gonna talk about a couple things, and then we have a guest coming on in about 20 minutes to talk about the mandate situation. And then we should just cut it there. And like I would say, let's leave the rest for later.
I mean, it was like, yeah, because there's 31 people watching on YouTube, which just tells me that like a lot of people. And let's see Rokfin. I'm assuming I want to go over there right now. This is Robert Kennedy Jr. I want to watch this. You know, I don't even know how many people are over here on this. Hey, Trey's there. You know, Trey, he doesn't care. Trey loves us above everybody.
He does.
We are Trey's.
We love him for that.
Trey, we're gonna go see you. We're gonna make a point to come see Trey. Trey and Sky Daddy.
Yeah,
we're gonna go infiltrate. Sorry.
Okay, so let's just do our show like we were going to do because that's what professionals do.
Yes.
And
is that what we are?
Yeah. I don't know. You can see the interview once it's done.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start with this section as the first section. You know, I didn't want to address this, and this is the whole part of the whole thing. Like, I've never addressed Bausch because he's useless, or what's his name, Hassan. Yeah. We did last week, and we just wanted to mention this because I think my whole point in this section is showing you guys we get a lot of criticism for going after the progressive, the left, right? But they're so much more dangerous than the right, especially in this.
Is that your theory?
Time. That is my theory.
Because that's going to be pushed back against, fam. Because the whole argument is that ideologically we're more in line with the leftists.
No.
Didn't you know that Donald Trump had a celebration on that boat too? Like, you hear that mentality. They always say the right is more dangerous than the left, and that's their whole game right now. It's all about right wingers. We got to stop right wingers. So what you're saying on record today is that the left is more dangerous.
It's not the left. It's the faux
bourgeois
left, the bourgeois left, the pretend communists, right? We talked about the Communist Party USA.
Cappuccino
We've talked about these people that, you know why they're more dangerous? Because I know where Republican stands. I don't have to try to figure it out. I know where they stand, where a neocon stands on war. I know where, you know, they stand on abortion and religious bullshit, you know, merging the state and religion. I know where they stand on certain things on the economy. I don't have to fucking dissect that. I have to, though, dissect this. People like Bausch, who I believe are intelligence assets, and they are training the next generation. A lot of Gen Z, right, are the viewers on Twitch, and they're feeding them fake theory because it's not even based in real theory. And they are brainwashing, propagandizing these people. Because do you think the CIA doesn't have knowledge that the younger people need to be brought into these new organizations? And I read this article, I've talked about it before, where the CIA was literally going in and actually going after people on social media to recruit them, people who are entirely just have a following on Twitter. They're trying to get that sort of thing going. So that's essentially it. So let's go ahead and play this video, because this is where Bausch admitted that he was an informant. And thank you, Franco, for posting this, and would rat out names to the higher ups when he was involved in Antifa. So let's just go ahead and listen to what this idiot said.
Like a Fed op, like you could say that about literally anything. You know, there are informants everywhere. I'm an informant. Why do you think I did Antifa work back in Santa Monica? You know, I was ratting out names. Absolutely, we've all been informants. You know, yeah.
So he's downplaying it, right? And then the next one, Oz, we can go ahead and play as well. The next one is where he was saying that, it's popular now to attack Julian Assange if you're like trying to be super edgy and for no reason hate on his supporters who are just very passionate about freeing Julian Assange because they understand that issue of free speech and the truth and press affects every issue you might fight for. And so he basically said he wanted Julian Assange to suffer in order to piss off his supporters. So let's listen to this deranged commentary.
Crystal Ball dismantles MSNBC lies about Assange. Hey, can I be real with you guys? Okay. I want Assange to die in a CIA black site just because it would trigger all the worst people on Twitter. Can I be real with you guys? I don't even remember shit about him. I don't even care. The whistleblowing shit is bullshit. It's just the worst people in the universe like Assange. And I honestly think the utility that you would get from their anger would be superior to anything you could get from proper civil rights or whatever. Yeah, no. Oh, God. Already shipped the clip? Good, ship it. This is getting included in the video. This isn't the preamble. I'm leading the video with this, yeah. I like Snowden. Snowden's cool. Be honest, you only dislike him because of what he did to the Democrats in the election race. I'm going to be real with you. If Julian Assange exclusively released info to help Bernie win over the DNC, and that was the only thing he did, I would still say the whole CIA black site thing. The fact that he's a horrible person, incredibly annoying, and also is conservative and just politically reprehensible only adds to my convictions. You like Chelsea Manning? I like Chelsea Manning, even though she doesn't follow me on Twitter.
Just because they have to be the white knight, so they have to project things in a certain way. Oh, I'm trying to protect people from COVID, so Pasta, you can't speak on stage because I have to protect other people. Does this come into play somewhere, the narcissism?
They're some of the most narcissistic, self-centered, self-victimizing people that exist. And that is a part of the criticism from the right that is actually valid. And it's because they're not addressing that criticism that it pushes people away. And the left is so weak here, or almost non-existent, the real left, to the point where that notion of the faux left, that people like Hassan Piker, like Vouch, all those people have become what is essentially the left in America. Yeah. And so it's hard to say that, that it's not real, because that's what is known as the left in America. And so it is unfortunate that we still have to talk in these paradigms, because at the end of the day, what is left or right? It's just a concept, a list of ideas that you put on one spectrum or another. It is more right now about the authoritarianism, about opposing actual fascism and this totalitarian control. Now, the right, of course, accepts these, just malignment of the left as, oh, that's communism. Oh, that's communism. Oh, it's this, we're turning into a communist state. No. That's not communism. That's fascism. It's fascism. So the CIA is very smart in putting little, tricks on both ends of the spectrum. On the Democratic end, they trick people into feeling like self-righteous idiots. On the right, they trick people into believing the boogeyman is always communism. So they reject that, even though what they're actually rejecting is actually fascism.
It's a form of fascism. It's authoritarianism, right? It's totalitarianism and whatnot. Yeah. And I think that we should not call it the left in America. I think we should call it the American left, because there is no left in America. And that's the God's honest truth. When we were overseas, they're like, there's no left in America. Nobody cares about this bourgeoisie bullshit, whatnot. And like you said, they're tricked in on the right to believing that communism is the issue and stuff like that, when communism and socialism really just started out as labor movements. That's all. It is about labor movements. It's got nothing to do with the bourgeoisie and what goes on in your house. And what we're seeing right in front of us, from what we've talked to Cynthia McKinney when it comes to the COINTELPRO stuff, it's playing out. They have people that they can control. They're little puppets. They control the internet. They control the flow of traffic. Because I was always trying to figure out, fam, how come Bosch has so many followers? I thought maybe it was his nice slick hair and that beautiful ponytail he has and whatnot. But it obviously seems like somebody flipping the switches on the other side. So what's to say now that once they'll get their Twitch channels back? We know this, right? If they already haven't. What's to say now that they won't use this and say, well, we know we're not intelligence because Twitch took away our channel? You see? That proves that they hate us.
So yeah, we just gotta get it back on the slide situation.
I'm so sorry.
So let's just go to the next one. The next one. Yeah. So he's saying a lot of his supporters are always saying that he's joking. And they're saying, hey, he's joking. He was totally being sarcastic. But that's their go-to every single time. Every single time something happens, that's their go-to. Oh, he's joking. How many times is a guy going to be joking? So stop saying he's joking. He's obviously not joking. So now he takes Franco's tweet and says, hey, I can't believe they took the bait. Like, it's like, oh, that's bait. So you're either a grifter or you're just now trying to cover your tracks, because it's one or the other. And people who are actual grifters, because that word gets thrown around a lot, are a detriment, because a lot of people think, oh, well, he's just kidding the whole time. So then don't take him seriously as news when he has an opinion then, because if he's just joking, you don't ever know what's true and what isn't. Next slide. Next one. Okay. So there was there's a record of him, right, lying. He had this whole situation right there. I mean, it's a little far for me to see, so let me just try to find it here. Okay, so there was a live stream in 2019 where he was talking about lowering the age of consent, and how owning pedophilia is not terrible, and how most people have watched, child porn. I can't even, say this stuff without getting weirded out, right? And so there's a history of him saying racist things, arguing in favor of saying the N-word, and all of that sort of thing. And so it's just hilarious to me that people like him get a pass, right? And then you have people like Niko and I, when we say, hey, here's a video of a woman arguing against mandates. Oh, you must be a right-wing Nazi. It's a lot. But people like Vosh, Beverly Hills, spoiled rich kid, white, gets away with all of these things. All of these things. He's hardly the only one. But it's just crazy to me. When and we talk about it all the time, Niko and I, when you're a minority, you have to stay in your lane. You cannot be a non-democrat, a non-progressive, tokenized minority. You can't, speak against a lot of the idiocy of these woke social justice warriors who put out all this bullshit and say, oh, it's because I care about people of color, when they literally don't give two shits.
They don't. They tokenize
imperialism.
People of color for their own benefit,
For their
to
own
make
benefit.
themselves look like the white savior. And it is funny when you see white women going, how dare you speak of that stuff, man, like that? How dare you speak out of line?
Yeah, and so this person said, I'm convinced that Vaush is a CIA plant whose purpose is to cosplay as a radical leftist while marginalizing or while manipulating his audience into making very non-leftist choices at the voting booth. Why else would such a radical leftist dub himself progressive for Biden? Yeah, I mean, there's no such thing as that. Biden's a Republican. I mean, just be honest, right? And so that to me is just the essence of it all. And so when
it comes to policy, he's definitely a Republican. When it comes to a politician, he's the American left. He's always crying for the small and disenfranchised. And then policy-wise, he comes around and goes, F you. So,
but policy is what matters. Policy is the,
Yeah. I think it's establishment would be the best way to, because the establishment is fucking, they're just all about control. They've abandoned every single bit of
right.
Yeah.
Like it's the idea of just they're rich, you're not. They're in control, you're not.
Not exactly.
Like that's really what it is at this point.
Absolutely.
And so then Vaush and Hassan Piker both got banned on Twitch, as we had mentioned. Why did they get banned? Because it used the word cracker. Now, these people are gross or narcissistic. They're absolute awful people that would never, that would cheer if people like us got banned. And they have cheered before when people like us get banned off YouTube and stuff. They actually advocate in favor of banning people like us. But I still believe you shouldn't ban those people for what they said. Cracker? Are you serious, Twitch? Like, come on. They have said far worse things before, but somehow that is some sort of racism against. Come on, get the fuck out of here. Come on. It's a saltine cracker.
It's a gateway though. It's a gateway to allow themselves to do more. Remember, it was simp that they banned anybody using the word simp, whatnot, anything from the English language. They start over here, and then a lot of people go, they're making sure that nobody's getting bullied, because kids will get bullied online and then they'll commit suicide, and that's what the Facebook whistleblower was all about. Was about manufacturing more consent for censorship. And that's what they're doing over here by saying, oh, he used the word cracker, we're going to ban him. They'll get their channels back. This is also cover for them as well, to kind of hide the fact that, it makes them look like they're raging against the machine, when really at the end of the day, they're working for the machine.
Okay. So don't answer the
I'm not.
Okay. And so I'm like, what's going on? We're in the middle of the show. And so Glenn Greenwald actually made a comment, right? And he said, here are the one of the Twitch streamers who got suspended yesterday for calling white people crackers, which Twitch regards as a racist slur, explaining how vital it is that free speech be limited. And then he said, banning people for using the term crackers is obviously demented and repressive, but the ultimate case of reaping and sowing. It was incredibly easy to predict, and many tried warning that banning people like Milo and Alex Jones would inevitably lead to this outcome. And we did. We said once they go after Alex Jones, they're going to go after all of us. Yeah. This is a slippery slope. This is what's going to continue to happen. And it's hilarious watching people be so upset at them being banned, and then just still advocating for censorship, though, because on the next slide, Oz, Hassan is really pissed at Glenn for even saying that. He says, how dare you, bro? Alex Jones got people harassing Sandy Hook victims' parents, and Milo was doxing trans students at college campuses. And this man is saying that this is what caused me to get banned for saying cracker. I'm sorry, but this is pure brain rot. He's not understanding what Glenn is saying. Glenn is saying once they ban anybody for their belief or for their speech, no matter how awful or stupid or how much of the actual disinformation it is, they're going to go after everybody. That's and that goes over Hassan's head because he operates from ideology first. Like, oh, but that's different because Alex Jones is a right-wing weirdo and he was talking against Sandy Hook victims and saying it was a conspiracy and all this other shit. So it doesn't matter. It's not for the same reason. No, it is. It is because they're trying to control speech.
So you're saying that Hassan's not getting the point that the fact that
Clearly.
they're banning people for speech. He thinks that they should be more selective of how they're banning people for speech, which is
racism.
a quagmire. It's just it's a fucked up situation.
He thinks it's racism. He thinks it's because their Twitch is racist because now they're allowing people to say, you know, more derogatory things towards people of color and trans people, but they're banning the word cracker. So that do you not think this whole narrative is a whole entire psyop? Like, come on, this is exactly what they want. Oh, see, they're racist, and so now they're elevating white people's voices. So see, I'm a victim because whenever people of color and trans people get like maligned, nobody's banned, and so we have to ban the right, not the left. The left is, and so then you start in that argument, that lower frequency argument of like it's racism, it's this, it's that. No, it's about censorship of any dissent. That's what it's about, period. So
Alex Jones didn't necessarily tell people to go harass people from Sandy Hook. He said it was a false flag, and therefore people harass people from Sandy Hook. Yeah. Is there any line to what could be said and what can't be said? I mean, as long as he's not saying, go harass these people of Sandy Hook, you know, they're the ones who are causing the problems because they want to take away your guns and they're using this as a way. Is that, if he didn't say that, is it okay for him to say what he wants to say? Because that's the argument, fam. He's saying that because of Alex Jones's rhetoric, it caused people to harass victims of parents of the victims of Sandy Hook. Where's the fine line there? I mean, are we okay to say that, you know, and same thing with Milo. Milo didn't say, go harass these trans people. He was talking about the whole trans issue, and people then supposedly started doxing trans people. So where's that line that we're looking at of what you can say and what you can't say? I mean, I've always said, as long as you're not directing people to do these things, then it should be legal, should it not? I mean, does Hassan have any type of weight in his argument over here?
I mean, honestly, I don't know because I don't know the situation of Milo. I don't pay attention to those people.
Yeah, well, he didn't tell them he didn't dox people.
I think they're just grifters too. I think that's what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they play the same role Hassan plays in terms of, you know, the Antifa versus the Proud Boys. It's that same sort of role they each play. So that's why I don't even talk about these people, like these Republicans, people like Milo, because what am I going to get offended that they're anti-trans? Okay, so what good does it do to rage against some idiot that is a mouthpiece for the national security state? I mean, that's really what these people are. They're there to distract us into this culture war when really put them aside and really focus on the people at the top, because that's really what this is about here. We're entering towards fascism every single fucking day in this country. And so that's what we need to focus on, right? These mandates and that whole situation. So, okay, so I sent the link to our friend. If you want to take a look at any sort of Rokfin or anything like that while we...
Well, I just want to close up the statement and say that I think that even though these situations, which Hassan is kind of pointing to, he might be somewhat true. It said Alex Jones got people harassing Sandy Hook victims. He didn't tell people to go harass those victims. Same thing with Milo. So the whole thing about it is no matter how harmful the speech, unless they're breaking the law, that speech should be allowed. And that's just the bottom line.
Unless you're inciting actual violence or of some sort.
They're trying to draw that connection there.
Yeah, of course, because they disagree with it. I mean, look, the fucking ACLU stood by Nazis' right to march. And that is, you know, that's something crazy. Like when I was younger, I was like, well, why? Like, that's not fair. Nazis shouldn't have an ability, a platform to speak. Because that's what I used to think. And, you know, and then I started seeing where this country was headed. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is how this happens then. Because that's where we're at.
Yeah.
You gotta...
So Trey Wright says, howdy, fam. Howdy, Trey. We also have Tom Sand. Bring in the heat. We are bringing the heat, fam, because it's cold in here.
It's fucking cold.
It's freezing.
So while we wait for our guest, I sent him the link. And let me see if I can send it here too, just so they have it. I want to read a little bit, Oz, of the article by Chris Hedges. He had a really powerful article that you guys should read on sheerpost.com. And I'm just going to read a little bit of it about it because it's important to really talk about this because, you know, these two of these idiots were maligning Assange and Assange activists and supporters. Here's a little bit of why this trial and the way they're treating him is so important. He said, let us name Julian Assange's executioners: Joe Biden, Boris Johnson, Scott Morrison, Theresa May, Lenin Moreno, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Mike Pompeo, Hillary Clinton, Lord Chief Justice Ian Burnett, and Justice Timothy Victor Holroyd, Crown prosecutors James Lewis, Claire Dobbin, and Joel Smith, District Judge Vanessa Brewster, Assistant U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, Gordon Kronberg, William Burns, the Director of the CIA, Ken McCullum, the Director General of the UK Security Service, or M15. Let us acknowledge that the goal of these executioners who discuss kidnapping and assassinating Assange has always been his annihilation. That Assange, who is in precarious physical and psychological health and who suffered a stroke during court video proceedings on October 27th, has been condemned to death and should not come as a surprise. The 10 years he has been detained, 7 in the Ecuadorian embassy in London and nearly 3 in the high-security Belmarsh prison, were accompanied with a lack of sunlight and exercise and unrelenting threats, pressure, anxiety, and stress. His eyes were out of sync. His right eyelid would not close. His memory was blurry. His fiancée, Stella Morris, died of the stroke. His steady physical and psychological deterioration has led to hallucinations and depression. He takes antidepressants, medications, and antipsychotic quetiapine. He has been observed pacing his cell until he collapses, punching himself in the face and banging his head against the wall. He has spent weeks in the medical wing of Belmarsh. Prison authorities found half of a razor blade hidden under his socks. He has repeatedly called the suicide hotline run by the Samaritans, because he thought about killing himself hundreds of times a day. The executioners have not yet completed their grim work. Toussaint Louverture, who led the Haitian independence movement, the only successful slave revolt in human history, was physically destroyed in the same manner, locked by the French in an unheated and cramped prison cell and left to die of exhaustion, malnutrition, apoplexy, pneumonia, and probably tuberculosis. Assange committed empire's greatest sin. He exposed it as a criminal enterprise. He documented its lies, callous disregard for human life, rampant corruption, and innumerable war crimes. Republican or Democrat, conservative or labor, Trump or Biden, it does not matter. The goons who oversee the empire sing from the same satanic songbook. Empires always killed those who inflict deep and serious wounds. Rome's long persecution of the Carthaginian general Hannibal, forcing him in the end to commit suicide, and the razing of Carthage repeats itself in epic after epic. There is our guest. Guys, go ahead and read this article. Yeah. We're going to have our guest coming on right now.
I think the lighting for the guest, though, we can't see necessarily. If you want to switch around to get the light more on your face so we can see your face. Whereas anything, yeah. But if you could just turn around, yeah, if you could turn around like you were just trying to do, maybe have that light in front of you and stuff. That's a little bit better.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there we are. Okay.
All right.
Awesome. Okay, so.
How you doing?
Hi, Taren. This is Taren Cruz, everybody.
Hi, everyone. How you doing?
Taren, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience, and we're going to go over some things too, but then we want to ask you some questions. But just go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
I'm Taren Cruz. I'm a co-chair of the Green Party of Minnesota and co-chair of the National Black Caucus.
Okay, awesome. And
we get in 2 different screens, Oz. There's a. Well, there was a different screen over there. That's
no, it's good. This is fine. Okay, so Taren, we brought you on because we were really kind of, I've voted Green several times in my life, and they were one of the parties that to vote for in the last recent years. Recently, the Green Party came up with an entire pro-mandate
the steering committee
manifest. Yeah, the steering committee of the Green Party. I mean, essentially the Green Party itself. They tweeted, and this is slide 40, Oz, the statement from the Green Party, the U.S. steering committee, supporting the use of vaccine mandates, and quarantines as part of a comprehensive public health effort to curb and eradicate the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. Slide 41. So they also said they had a comprehensive public health policy focused on prevention that includes not only vaccines, but free access to personal protective equipment, PPE, including face masks, infrastructure upgrades to treat and filter air, quarantines. They started talking about that. They advocate for monthly relief checks, which is good, eviction and utility shut-off moratoriums, emergency Medicare for all, rent and mortgage forgiveness. All these things are good. But of course, they kind of wanted to put in these mandates and encouraging, the vaccine itself and encouraging like the conversations around vaccines rather than the disinformation that was outside of it. And they said scientific data and experiments may be difficult to properly interpret and put into context without formal training. Therefore, we support the efforts of the medical community working with the public to help dispel mistrust and misunderstanding of vaccine science and other public health efforts. So they're supporting the current narrative that is, put by the CDC. Now we're on YouTube, so according to the CDC, the vaccines are safe and effective. Even though the CDC has also stated that even though the vaccines, according to them, reduce the transmission and spread of COVID, they also do not stop it. And overall, they have admitted that it wanes over time. So now I want to ask you, because you guys put out a statement as well. The U.S. Green Party Black Caucus said vaccine mandates passports are among the most vile, unconstitutional, slide 42, immoral, unscientific, discriminatory, and outside criminal policies ever enforced upon the population, and goes against everything the Green Party stands for under social justice. So, question to you. Why are you guys opposing mandates?
So first I want to give credit to James Lane and Fiorella Farley who crafted this statement. James Lane is a delegate to the National Committee, and Fiorella Farley is actually our media co-chair. So even us being able to get this message out has been a discussion within the Green Party. But the reason why we had to put this statement out is because, for one, this statement, the Green Party of the United States does not support vaccine mandates. And there hasn't been a conversation with the National Committee, which is the highest authority in the Green Party, to endorse a statement. The spokespeople are supposed to speak for the party and its values and its interests. And we didn't have a conversation about vaccine mandates or this statement whatsoever. So, and this is no diss against the Green Party or the steering committee. It's just that we just think it's very important for people to know that the Green Party of the United States and the National Black Caucus does not support vaccine mandates, and we support people's civil rights, definitely.
Right. And go ahead, Pastor.
Well, okay, let's start off real quick, because that was a nice way of putting it, really, to tell you the truth. Because when I read your guys' statement from the Black Caucus, I was like, thank God, because this is more in line with a lot of values and people have right now. What the steering committee was saying is something that might make people want to run for the hills. What is the role of the steering party, and why were they able to come out with this kind of comment without addressing everybody below in all the different caucuses around the nation, like yourselves, like the Black Caucus? So what's their role,
The steering committee manages the day-to-day operations of the Green Party. So it's more like an administrative body. I've been on the steering committee last year, but I'm not anymore, but the steering committee really just handles the day-to-day body of the work of the Green Party and stuff like that. They are spokespeople, but they can speak for the party if they're speaking on our policy, and in our platform, there's nothing that advocates for vaccine mandates.
So why did they just come out and say this? I mean, this is like there's an executive who's working and his secretary went behind his or her back and made a statement and put it out there, because there was a lot of Greens I know, a lot of Greens I spoke with, you know what I'm saying, that were like, wait a second, this is not right. Why would they do something like this? And is there somebody who's pulling strings? Is this one faction of the Green Party? Is this the Howie Hawkins faction and not the Ajamu Baraka faction? Can you give us a little insight to that?
Well, I don't think so. There's definitely some factionism going on right now, and there's definitely some infighting and robust debate happening around this statement, which is why it should have happened before the statement was released. So, there's people, I don't want to say which faction it's actually from or point fingers at people, but I would just say that there's a lot of people, as you've probably seen on Twitter and Facebook, a lot of Greens who are disappointed with this. And we want those Greens to know that you can come talk to the Black Caucus. If you stop donating recently, you can donate to the Black Caucus. You can donate to the Green Party of Minnesota, and just get back involved with your state party too, especially those state parties who are not supporting a vaccine mandate. So I don't think we should totally just give up on the Green Party, but we definitely need to fight for it and make sure that the steering committee is getting feedback from its members in the national committee before they just speak for us on issue this important and this divisive to our party.
Mm-hmm.
Right. How did the Black Caucus come to this stance? I mean, was this this voted on? Was this an overwhelming sort of stance from the majority of the members of the Black Caucus, or how was the sentiment in coming to, putting out the statement that you guys put out?
Well, for over the last few months, we've some of the Black Caucus, we have been studying a book called Medical Apartheid. When COVID started, we have already been having this conversation and this discourse, and then we let people know that this release was coming out in the Black Caucus. Executive committee approved it. We had a Black Caucus meeting over the weekend. It was discussed, and the Black Caucus is in our membership is pretty much, I would say, 99% in agreement with this letter. And because of the history of Black people in the United States, in the medical industry, it's a no-brainer for us. It's not that we just don't trust vaccines. We have a relationship, whether it's the Tuskegee experiment, whether it's Marion Sims experimenting on women during slavery. Actually, without slavery, we don't think there would even be a medical industry in America today. So the Black community has a very, very distrust of the medical industry, and then just us as Greens, we don't want to, we say people over profits. Well, Pfizer just in the fourth quarter made $13 billion in the quarter of 2021. And we know, I'm pretty sure it has a lot to do with these vaccines that they're getting, I believe, federal funding for too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just had a follow up to that. So you mentioned, the Tuskegee experiment and the history that causes distrust in these agencies for the Black community. One of the friends we had on recently was a member of the ACLU and left because of the ACLU stance on the vaccine mandates. In New York, in particular, there was a lot of support from Black Lives Matter activists saying that these mandates were actually attacking Black people and poor people, because a lot of these people, for several reasons, among them economic, but a lot of the times hesitancy more than anything, were the ones that didn't have these sort of passports. Why in your opinion is in your opinion this also an economic attack on people of color and the working class?
Well, let me speak of it locally. I'm not, well, in the United States, definitely, if you're going to say you can't go to work unless you get vaccinated, and you feel like you don't need to get vaccinated, or you don't want to get vaccinated, or you've already been vaccinated, then they're telling you you need to get another vaccination, then you need to get a booster shot. It's like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? And these are experimental drugs. I kind of don't, I'm not saying me, I'm just saying what the average Black worker is thinking. Right. I really don't want to take this, but if I don't take it, then I'm going to lose my job. If I lose my job, then I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. I'm living paycheck to paycheck anyway, but then if I take the vaccine, what if I get sick? What if I die? Who's going to take care of my kids? So we definitely
opinion of what people are thinking. Right.
Right. And we just know the economics that with the median income for Black people in America, we don't have we can't miss a lot of work like that and think that we're going to. So that by that, it's it's racist like that, because if you know a large percent of Black Americans don't want to get vaccinated because they mistrust the government and those vaccinating them, then you are basically putting an economic sanction on them. Then you're saying that they can't go to the restaurant, then they can't. So basically like segregation, whites only, so even if you look at it like South Africa, I think 1.3% of Africans are vaccinated. And they want something called a patent waiver, where they can produce their own vaccine and distribute it to their people and things like that. So it's very racially, there's some very serious racial undertones to this whole vaccination mandate situation.
Yeah. And let me add to that a little bit, Tace. Let me add to that a little bit, Trey. Just to kind of put a shell on it. Black people are more or less more easy to be in contact with COVID due to how we're racially populated, due to how we're economically populated, and how we're demographically basically separated into different neighborhoods, while the dominant society has suburbs. And it has outer regions where, for example, when you talk about coming in contact with COVID on a significant level, well, Black people are populated with each other. Most white people live in suburbs. So just demographically, when you look at it from that perspective, of course, Black people will be coming in contact with these viruses, not only at a faster rate, but with more people.
So I just to follow up, just period though, Black people have a big mistrust of the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry here in the United States, and do not feel comfortable taking the vaccine. And so for me, it's not as far as whether you should take the vaccine or not. It shouldn't be something that's mandated. And if it's mandated, then it's violating people's civil rights. And the Green Party should not advocate for something that is violating people's civil rights. And Biden just tried to put this mandate out at the same time that the Green Party was, the steering committee was releasing this statement. And I think Biden's mandate was just voted down a couple days ago.
Getting smacked down, and it's the hesitancy. I mean, if you just look at Johnson's & Johnson's, what they did in Africa, giving people mesothelioma, mostly people of color, you know what I'm saying, and then got away with it. Why would anybody ever trust these companies? So I understand the hesitancy, especially when it comes to people of color, the testing, what we talked about, whatnot. But let's talk about this for a second, because when I read the Black Caucus's release of what was going on, it was really like a saving grace for me. I'm like, this is the way I feel. This is how it should be. It's very different than the steering committee. The only problem is people can't separate the fact that it was the steering committee and not the Green Party as a whole who made this statement being pro-mandate. How are you guys going to have some accountability in this party, and how are you guys going to fix this? Because right now they're looking at the Green Party and going, you know what? No way. I'm not part of this anymore. That's that. Even though it was the steering committee, how do you guys fix this and make sure there's some accountability and you get some representation as a whole? Because it seems like the Green Party is digressing instead of moving forward.
And definitely we're going to work hard. We have to work hard to get the Green Party back on track. So there's some people within the Black Caucus that are that are calling for recall elections right now, and that may be a little extreme, but I think we definitely, I think that the steering committee should hear what its members are saying, but there's also, I definitely know that there needs to be the statement needs to be recanted, in that going forward that they need to start speaking for, doing a better job of speaking for the whole party, running things by the national committee, especially when it's that divisive, so that we can vote on these type of statements and have robust conversations right now, because a lot of people in the Green Party and our members are really upset by the statement that was released by the steering committee of the Green Party of the United States.
Yeah, just based on what I've seen too, just adding to what Pasta said, is like I've seen a lot of people be like, well, the Green Party, you know, I used to vote for them, but now nobody but Republicans is opposing this mandate, so I'm going to go vote Republican. And that's one of the things that scares me is because there is a segment of the left that is pushing a lot of authoritarianism, a lot of, you know, fascistic tendencies, and it's not coming just from the right. It's coming from some of the left with these mandates, and that's pushing a lot of people into the arms of the party that seemingly isn't pushing that, even though we know that at the end of the day, you know, we live in an oligarchy, right? It's an illusion of choice, of a duopoly. It's not even a real duopoly.
Right.
So the issue I have is, what is the left, like the anti-mandate left? Because there's very few vocal leftists on this issue of mandates. And any time as a leftist, if you advocate against mandates, you're labeled as, you know, red, brown, or trying to flirt with the right, or it's become this sort of like stigma, I think, that a lot of people don't want to have, which is why it's so important to hear from people like you guys, because honestly, like a lot, if you know, if somebody like Pasta goes and says, yeah, I'm anti-mandate, oh, here's some white guy, right-winger, Nazi, blah, blah, blah. So it's just like, my question is, what is the left going to do to like be more vocal about these stances? Because it seems like we just aren't.
And so I think it kind of goes back to what you just said about Pasta. And I don't want to say this is happening in the Green Party, but we got to make sure that it doesn't, like if someone speaks out, then they become attacked, and it's like a mob. Like, so and so within political parties or within like a national committee, there should be, people should be able to have these type of discussions without being being demonized within your own party because you have a different opinion than others. And sometimes your opinion can be based on scientific facts, and then you still get demonized and things like that. So a little bit after the January 6th riots, I think the interest in third parties were at an all-time high in America. But if we're doing the same thing that the Democrat Party is doing, then people are not going to gravitate to the Green Party. They're going to go to the Libertarians. They're going to go to the Republicans. So we really have to be about what our platform is about. And a big part of our platform is grassroots democracy, or participatory democracy, which means that everybody has a say in what's happening. And so definitely the National Committee going forward is going to have a say in what's happening in the Green Party of the United States, especially when it's releasing policy statements like that should be coming from caucuses in the National Committee.
Absolutely. And you guys have a lot of work to do, because, you know, I can't picture another election with Howie Hawkins being at the top of the ticket. I don't think he's representative of most Greens. I mean, how do we get back to the good old Green tickets that we really could have like embraced years ago? The Cynthia McKinneys, the Margaret Kimberleys, the Ajamu Barakas. How do we get this back in play to make this Green Party more valuable? Because right now, I think that, unfortunately, and no disrespect to Howie, but he's more of a harm than he is a helpfulness when it comes to the Green Party.
And I love Howie, and I think he has a lot of knowledge and great experience in things. But I think
he's not embraced by the people, though. The people aren't embracing him. He's 0-26, and we just got to look at it for what it is, that he's not going to be the one to move people towards the Greens.
And so that's why we have to bring in this 2022 up into 2024. We have to bring in more dynamic candidates, younger candidates, people who aren't. And just, I think the culture of the Green Party too, we have to work on the culture that we're not just here to get 5% or 1%. We're here to win. We're here to pass policies. We're here to change lives. We're here to change America. And we can actually do it when we organize and put and be smart about our elections. So I definitely look forward to having a robust, making sure I think, especially in the Black Caucus, that's why the Black Caucus is going to be so pivotal in 2022 and making sure that the Green Party is competitive and also in 2024, so that even if we can bring some dynamic presidential candidates and Senate candidates to the forefront.
Well, any other questions?
No, I just want to say that letter that you guys wrote, really, to tell you the truth, that's what it's all about. Reading that letter made me want to get back more into the Green Party than anything before. So I think what you're doing over there, Tareen, is just a great job. And I wish you nothing but luck for the future to hopefully straighten and get the path right for the Green Party back on track. Because, you know, it was like the one party outside of the two-party duopoly. We would always say, like, this one represents our values more. They just seem very dysfunctional, what's going on. So I hope things straighten out over there. That's just my only last statement, fam. So,
well, thank you so much for coming on. Did you guys want to say anything else in closing?
Just again, go to the Black Caucus. You can donate to us, be a part of our meetings and broadcasts that we'll be having coming up. We're actually going to be having a conversation about this issue, and also join the Green Party of Minnesota, mngreen.org.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming on, and we wish you the best of luck in everything you're doing. Thank you for speaking out, and I'll pass along this for other guests too, for our other hosts that have shows, because it's important to hear from your voice. So we appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you guys, and thank you guys for having us. This was great.
thank you, Mr. Cruz.
All right, peace.
Peace.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Jeremy got in the last second. He was cut off during his speech, and then Mr. Cruz was able to finish up for him and stuff. But thank you so much for joining us today, guys. That was awesome.
That was a really important conversation. In fact, I want to pass the info to some of our friends that should have them on as well, because I think that would be, and it's not like it's this whole idea that only right wingers and only Trumpers are anti-mandate that we just have to destroy. I mean, we've talked to Garland, right, who I mentioned on the stream. We've talked to Garland. We've talked to other people. This is effectively what he said, the new Jim Crow. Like, that is what is happening, and it's affecting those populations that the left says they care about, which they obviously don't care about. And so, what do you say? Do we continue? Well,
Jimmy is still on talking right now with Robert Kennedy. I think he's still on. There's stuff going on outside. I got to go up and check too as well. Yeah, let's take a break, and then maybe come right back. I mean, how long of a break do you think we should take? Because he's got to be finishing up there soon. You want to take a half-hour break and then come back? Does that work, fam?
Yeah, is the stream going to stay on?
Maybe we should take a 15-minute break. Just leave it. Can we leave it on for a 15-minute break? We'll just take a little running thing, or you have some stuff to run? Oz, we'll give Jimmy like 15 minutes to finish up, and then we'll jump on in. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. We'll be back in 15 minutes. We'll see you at the top of the hour, okay?
probably going to talk a little bit.
Okay, everybody. Here we are. Watch this. Ready? Boom! Oh, we're right there, fam. See? Now you see me. Now you don't. The Convo Couch is back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Pasta Jardula.
Fiorella.
And Oz on the ones and twos over there. Johnny is out there helping out as well, making sure that we got everything up here, guys. Thank you so much for your patience today. For those of you who are finishing up at the Jimmy Dore stream and coming on over, welcome. We just had on a member from the Black Caucus in the Green Party, fam. Really interesting interview, too, as well. There's a lot of work they have to do, but I think they were right on target with their statement, fam, as far as opposing what the steering committee, and people have to understand this is not the Green Party as a whole. This is the steering committee, and they just showed us that they're not communicating with the National Party or the caucuses, are they, fam?
No, not at all. And I think it's important, you know, the last two sections we covered about how the faux left, or whatever you want to call them, the boutique left, they're damaging, and they're more damaging than Republicans a lot, because they trick us, right? And they try to pretend to be something they're not. And they're really just pushing people to the right. And that sentiment was reiterated with the Green Party Black Caucus, because I mentioned how, like, people are leaving the Green Party and are going to vote Republican, or are going to vote, you know, Libertarian or something else. And, like, fine, the Libertarian Party is a potential, you know, also party to kind of take into it a very anti-imperialist, anti-mandate, maybe, you know, economically, some of the positions on the left, maybe, but, like, the Republican Party is not going to do that. And so people are getting tricked into, well, Republicans are better on mandates, so I'm going to go Republican. And so we kind of discussed, like, that's what's happening to this country, because it's not even about the Republican or the Democrat. It's about this country's being dragged into authoritarianism, into fascism every single day. And they're using both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party to do that. They're using this culture war fight to drag us along into what is actual authoritarianism.
I think people have to realize, too, as well, there's going to be people voting on one issue this next election coming out, and that is COVID. That is the mandates. That is all these things that encompass when it comes to this COVID-19 pandemic. That's the issue that's going to be sticking out to most. And a lot of Republicans, like you said, I think a lot of them are just hiding in the bushes, not making statements. It's almost like the election thing. When they see a lot of people blame the Democrats for the elections, they go, whoosh, because they know establishment Republicans also benefit from election rigging as well. So it's the same thing over here. They're not pushing hard against the mandates. In fact, some of them in Congress are pushing for the mandates.
Yeah.
So that is kind of crazy right now. The Green Party can really set themselves up for success by saying we oppose this right now. Right now, the Libertarian is the third party out there, because they're anti-mandate as a whole. Most of them, they're anti-interventionists. So and we're going to talk about some interventionism and some imperialism coming up. But right now, the Green Party needs to get back on track. And the one comment I did not like from Tareen from the Black Caucus was the fact that he's like, I have a lot of respect for Howie Hawkins and what he does. However, enough with that. I mean, I'm glad that you have respect for the man, but this person cannot be the face of the Green Party. If he is the face of the Green Party, you will get no success. And they have to make a stern decision on that. Hey, listen, we're moving away from this person and moving on for this person. He did mention there's a lot of young candidates coming up with the Green Party. Well, I hope they come to fruition and we get to see some of them, because we do need some real leaders within the Green Party. Because if the Green Party is a force to be reckoned with, the way it was with Jill Stein, it changes the whole dynamics of these elections.
And Ajamu Baraka has come against mandates, and he has been, you know, saying these things that are, you know, disagreeing with some of the other members of the Green Party, which I think is essential. And of course, as a Black man, and I say this not because I want to tokenize people, but because it is essential that we have a growing leftist anti-mandate movement, because it is just discarded as a right-wing Trumper Nazi thing. And so people don't even listen to what you're saying, even if you have the information and the science with you, like they don't listen. And so it's that smear tactic that they're using. Anyway, so we'll get on to the next subject, but I also just, you know, I wanted to say it's extremely important that these people get them on other shows, get them to talk about this. It is so important that there's pushback from within a third party, because even the PSL and all these communist or socialist parties are I mean, they're right up there with the mandate situation. They're totally advocating this whole what is called medical apartheid, medical whatever. Yeah. And so that is really what's that's why these people are like so essential. And I think he's absolutely right. But Joe Biden's approval rate is like at the 20% mark. Kamala Harris is at 12%. Guys, this is not a joke. This is a thing to really jump on. So, okay. Speaking of things that are happening, there was the conference recently, and it's a conference held by the majority of anti-imperialist, anti-interventionist nations that have suffered under the American imperialism, which is Cuba, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Bolivia. Some of these nations in other parts of the Caribbean have been invited to this conference, and it's called the ALBA, the TCP summit. And I, mentioned here in the tweet, President Daniel Ortega from Nicaragua is in Cuba to participate in the 20th of Cumbre de la Alianza Bolivariana, the Bolivarian Alliance of the People of the Americas. So the ALBA TCP, where they'll discuss COVID, the economy, recent elections, and the issue of sanctions. And you can see that he is there in Cuba. And I also wanted to show some pictures of the conference. You guys can see Maduro there. You guys can see several of the members of these nations in the ALBA, the 20th year. So I'm going to translate a little bit about really what is this thing, because I think it's important people really get some information.
We're talking about ALBA, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's this conference that's, like I said, it's big nations like Cuba, Nicaragua, socialist Bolivia.
I think Manuel Zelaya, in other words, Honduras had joined ALBA for maybe 2 weeks before they couped his ass. That shows you how significant ALBA is.
And right now they're in the transitionary period, and they haven't taken over the government. Because remember, Ortega has been president, and now he's continuing to be president, whereas Yamara is brand new, and so they have to transition. So obviously they're not in there. They haven't decided if they're going to join or not. We don't know that as of yet. So I'm going to translate some of this because it's important to kind of give you guys just a brief overview as to what it is. So the delegations from the countries of the Bolivarian Alliance for the People of the American Commerce Treaty of the People, the ALBA, the TCP, are united in Cuba on the 11th of December 2021 to begin the 26th anniversary of this alliance. We reassess our compromise to this alliance and this political consternation sustained by the principles of solidarity, social justice, cooperation, and economic cooperation, fruit of the political will of the people and their founders, Comandantes Fidel Castro, Ruz, and Hugo Rafael Chavez Frias. So again, the founders, Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez. They, the principal guidance of ALBA is the solidarity between the people of the Americas that sustains the Bolivarian thought. Martí, San Martín, Sucre, O'Higgins, Petion, Morazan, Sandino, Bishop, Garvey, Tupac, Katari, Bartolina Sisa, Chatoyer, and others who were leaders of the Latin American independence, the Latin American and Caribbean independence. And this was conformed to the declaration of the Comandantes Chavez and Fidel on the 14th of December, 2004. So they're pretty much saying that they're just re-emphasizing their compromise into Latin America and the Caribbean, and that they're going to really unite to fight against the hegemonic and imperialist threats that keep growing, and to establish peace and stability in these regions. And they want an international, transparent, democratic, just, and equitable order based on multilateralism and the observance of these principles that are consecrated in the Carta de las Naciones Unidas y el Derecho Internacional. So they're basically trying to say that they're going to cooperate and focus on building alliances and building this sort of strength within Latin America and the Caribbean. And they are elevating, of course, the legacy of the two founders, Hugo Chavez and Fidel Castro. And they really are going to stand against hegemony and imperialism. And so this is of course also for strengthening CELAC, right? Which is the also the alliance. And I think it's important that people understand that this whole thing to revitalize CELAC in Mexico was extremely important as well. So that's just kind of giving you an overall. It's kind of like what really a democracy summit would be if we had a democracy in America. But it's like what NATO's supposed to be, but it's not.
Well, what it is, Alba, is that all these countries who are pretty much under the boot of American imperialism in Latin America have gotten together. And I think it's a lot of the reasons why they have these conferences and they talk a lot of things is to try to encourage some of those other countries that are necessarily just going along with American imperialism, whatnot, to say, hey, listen, there's a home when you're ready to break and kind of, determine your own future and stuff and not be the puppet government of the United States. So I think that's what's there. That's why, when we talk about Manuel Zelaya being removed, as soon as they join ALBA, there are certain countries that really have to be careful. Will Xiomara join ALBA right away? I don't know. I don't know if that's the best move until maybe finding a time when she can somehow align themselves with them. But it's important too as well, because once you get away from the American empire, you have to feed yourself, clothe yourself, take care of your own resources. And the way it really works is when you can trade within Latin America and really help each other out.
I think it is the best move, Pasta. I don't
right off the jump, they might remove her.
What do you mean they might remove her? They might remove everybody. I mean, at this point, you have a strong Nicaragua, you have Cuba, you have Venezuela, you have an alliance of people, Bolivia, with your back. Have your back. You have two choices. Either you're going to play nice and play ball with the U.S. empire, or you're going to oppose them. And now China is coming into the play with trade and economic development. So no, it's I believe that is the only way is for them to join. I mean, I could give her a month, give her 2 months, whatever. Yeah. But I think that is essential. Otherwise, you're going to play ball with the U.S. And guess what? Every time you play ball with the U.S., you never come out winning. They will never, ever, ever, fulfill their promises on their end. They're going to it doesn't matter if you show loyalty, they will coup you the next day if you do anything that they don't want. Yeah. Because then you're not operating as a country that is sovereign and independent. You're operating at the behest of the United States empire, and they will lose a lot of people and a lot of support if they go that route. Yeah. So I think it's essential that they don't.
Is it, we don't, obviously, again, I hate to use this fucking phrase, that we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, right? If they're trying to get to a spot, well, maybe they're a little bit more food efficient, like Nicaragua was, or, get some type of something in play to the point where they're like, okay, now we can break away and we can hold this down. Will Xiomara have that relationship with the generals we talked about in the forces? We asked these questions about, when we got in front of Mel, it's like, what's the relationship? Because you've said before many times, it's the relationship with the military means a lot from these people who are running the country and stuff, because they might not have the generals in their back pocket, whatnot. The United States has 3 military bases there. They have a close relationship with some of the generals and the people up high in the Honduras, military. So I think those relationships need to be solidified before any move is made from Xiomara to try to break away and try to go into the ALBA way. I mean, we saw what happened. It was the military of the Honduras military that removed Manuel Zelaya under the orders of the United States imperialists. So it's like that relationship has to be solidified before any move could be made.
But the current national government it's so unpopular that it is the time to go after the loyalty of the people. That's how Ortega and the Sandinistas have kept their strength, is because of having the backing of the people, including members of the military, especially a lot, defending the sovereignty. Because at the end of the day, it's not about Ortega as much as it is about the sovereignty of the people. So
I think they have it in the back of their mind when they're going to do it. Like, they have a plan this time. Like, this is what we're going to do for infrastructure. This is what we're going to do for export, import. And then once we get everything in play and we make sure that we have, because remember, she can start removing people from the military and putting people in, get a little solidification, and then maybe make a move I don't know. I wish I was more behind the scenes to find out what's going on. But it is one of those moves that I'm very skeptical of, because we've seen what has happened before, and we even got to ask Mel that question, and he was kind of just have faith.
Yeah, I just don't think you can operate on fear, though. Because it's well, what if this happens? You should be prepared for it. But I don't think you should allow, because that fear mechanism to keep you from having an independent and sovereign country, especially with the alliances happening right now, as we see. So back on track, we have the established members, right? I'm gonna go over some: Venezuela, Bolivia, Cuba, Nicaragua, the Dominica, so the Dominican Republic, Antigua y Barbuda, San Vicente y las Granadinas, Santa Lucia, San Cristobal y Nieves, and Grenada. So those are all Caribbean islands. And then, of course, the big ones are Venezuela, Cuba, Bolivia, Nicaragua, and the rest are in the Caribbean. Dominican Republic is surprising, but not after the fact that when we went to both Nicaragua and Honduras, there was a lot of support from the Dominican Republic. So it was interesting. I didn't know that much about the politics of the Dominican Republic, but there's definitely a lot of a push for anti-imperialism as well. And so I want to show you guys what Maduro says, because this is why people can call me a commie and all of that, but let's really listen to how he talks about the empire, and how he talks about just what exactly is the problem with the imperialist nature of the West.
Hold it. But everybody is with freedom, but it wasn't precisely freedom what they pretended in those agreements of new colonialism. Those times justify the processes and projects that 17 years ago started. ALBA, without a doubt, has been our space. The Bolivarian Alliance for the people of our Americas is our space, is our house. Here we're brothers, face to face. There are no powerful countries here that dominate, that blackmail, that menace, and there are no weak nations here that are menaced. We are all equal here, because ALBA is the house of the equals, the house of brotherhood, the house of big dreams. It has been like that. During the pre-pandemic stage, we could say somehow. We could see somehow. Well, so we can call it a pandemic of coronavirus.
Essentially what he was saying, I just want to hear your opinion on what he said, but he essentially said there's no, powerful countries here that are gonna be more or less than. We're all equal here. We're all brothers here. This is a country that, this is an alliance, is what he was saying, that is on equality, on solidarity. That is what it should be with everybody, including the West. But it's not.
Yeah.
And that's why he's saying that.
Yeah. Listen, me, ALBA's like a dream come true of a organization of people, of countries that are picking themselves up and doing their own thing and determining their own future. So I'm definitely for it in theory, Once again, it's just how is it obtained by these other countries. I am liking the fact right now, I think moving forward, that Nicaragua is now going to be the linchpin of these three countries when it comes to Cuba, Venezuela, and whatnot, that they might have control of their government and their militaries and what right now. But the breadwinner right now is Nicaragua, right? They're 95% food efficient. They can feed themselves, they don't have a problem with remittances and everything like that, because they didn't have a big mass migration to the United States like Venezuela and Cuba has. Obviously, we took the people in Cuba that were friendly to our government, whatnot, and Venezuela has had their issues, whatnot, and You even witnessed it in Peru, a lot of people from Venezuela going to Peru. So interesting moving forward on how it's going to be able to grow and stuff. Concern about how people can join it like the other countries like Honduras, and now that they have that there. So this is just one of those wait and see kind of situations, fam, because we understand how much military strength the United States has around the globe and how they can help overturn these governments and really flip the script, because a lot of people we know are in these countries are like, oh, anti-socialist, anti-communist, because what they've been fed and what they've been duped to believe, when it's really more about labor and resources. They have it about authoritarianism and control. So it's going to be a very interesting balancing act, because a lot of people still aren't crazy about Maduro in that region. You know what I'm saying?
In a lot of regions. I mean, even like when we went to Honduras, I mean, even in Peru, even the left in these countries, which is obviously not as left as in Nicaragua, but they, you know, they're hesitant to align themselves with Nicolas Maduro. That's why, you know, even Mexico is not a part of this. It just goes to show you, right? But I do want to say he also kind of insulted the people who are hesitant to join, because he said you're not going to find a menace, or, you know, threats would be the translation, threats to this movement. You're also not going to find people who are easily menaced, so easily threatened, like easily, you know, you're going to find like people who are brave and who are standing up. Like he was sort of saying, you know, we're powerful here for doing this, for standing up against the empire, which I really like. You know me, I like people who really like, or really put it out there as it needs to be, because to me, there is no, you don't play a soft hand, you don't give in to the empire anymore. There's no room for that. They see a weakness, they go and they take it. And I think that's the problem with, you know, that I worry about in Peru, that I worry about in Mexico, and Honduras is, you know, to be determined on that.
I think people, and I've had this argument so many times with people when I talk to, like, for instance, when we were in Peru, the Venezuelan people that we met, they were like anti-Maduro, had nothing to do with it, whatnot, and stuff like that. And we talked to some people in Honduras about how the poorer people never get the information. It doesn't trickle down to them, right? And I say to people all the time, well, you don't know what it's like in my country. It's like, listen, the dog wags the tail. I know what the United States is doing. I know the influence of what the United States is doing as far as corporations. So we understand who's pulling the strings. We have a different perspective. But how do we get this information down to the people like that we met in Peru? Isabel, who worked at the one place, and then the Venezuela place where they made arepas, where they were completely against what Maduro was doing. How do we get the information down to those people who might not have the avenues and the ways that we can kind of trade and share information?
That's the thing. It's their propaganda as equally in a lot of the nations, like in Peru, where the media is owned by private corporations as well. So all you hear mostly is propaganda. So they don't know, because it's like it's like you're in the fourth dimension, because you see everything happening at once. They're in like the third dimension, where they just see what's happening in front of them, which Maduro, we're getting sanctioned. There's, you know, food shortage and all of this, even though we've heard from our comrades that there's been improvement, that they only see that the things happening. So they don't see who's behind pulling the strings behind the scenes. And so that is essentially going to have to be done by the people in the countries, telling them like, oh, no, this is not what's happening. And also by the material conditions, like who's going to help them out with material conditions. The reason people in Nicaragua and people in Honduras and people in a lot of these Latin American countries fight for economic justice is because they have no choice, because the material conditions force them to look at this, right? If we didn't have water or electricity here, we wouldn't be focused on social justice yet, because we need to get water and electricity first. That was always my thing with when we talked about Julian Assange and free speech. I was always like, I understand, I agree that this issue affects every other issue, but if people don't have food on the table, if they don't have a ways to pay their debts, they're literally not going to look at how these things are connected. So it's kind of paying attention to what their needs are, which I think is why the Sandinistas have been so successful, because they literally help people out tangibly and materially. You got your house knocked off because of the hurricane. Let's rebuild your roof. Let's build more roads to make it easier to travel. You have to meet people at where they're at, and I think
meet them on the battlefield.
That's part of the whole thing.
Yeah, it's the pasta saying. Good job, fam. You know, the funny thing is about Nicaragua though too, as well, is they had the what's the word, the news, right? They had their own source of news, which was there to kind of combat all the bullshit we see that, I mean, if it wasn't for Max Blumenthal, I would have believed Jorge Ramos on how those conditions were so awful and whatnot until Max Blumenthal went and confronted him. And then people like Ahmed Cabello, who made a great video on Venezuela. If you don't watch these independent kind of channels, you know what I'm saying, that are there to combat the mainstream, and we saw that in Nicaragua where they were there to combat the mainstream, then people aren't going to know. I mean, it shouldn't be white boy Rob McCoy over here showing up to fucking Honduras with our team to go, look at the elections here. They're going to use this as a reason to coup and stuff. These places need to really adopt their own type of news that really would be open to combat and have conversations with the prevailing narrative that is so, anti-ALBA.
But it does help to have you as a white man go out there. You know why? Because not only does it present it to the American and Western audience, but their audience gets to see an American say, hey, America is pulling the strings here. America has been pushing imperialism. Literally nobody except the people that were there with us will talk about America and the truth and the empire, because it's not about the American people. We're not trying to hate on the American people. We're trying to talk about the corrupt government and what it's doing to you all abroad and to its own people here, trying to pit them against the other, when really you guys have more in common. And so when an American is saying, hey, the United States has terrible elections, a white American is going on national Honduran television and saying this, it has weight, because they think, a lot of people think, that America is still fairness and democracy, and they're still, and it's not. It's just a facade of it. It's so much better. And so that's I think that's why we need to continue going to these places. And Venezuela's on my list, Cuba's on my list, because I really want to get to the truth.
El Salvador.
El Salvador, Bitcoin Beach. I know you're dying to go there, but I it's these places that we really, really have to go to, and the people we really, really have to talk to that, think differently than us. Just because they're supposed communists or supposed socialists doesn't mean they're in agreement at all with the socialists in America. And let me tell you, they're not in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because American socialists are not real socialists. They're just bullshit bourgeois socialists. Yeah. And you know who the number 2 popular Republican is in America right now? We know Donald Trump sunk when it came to Latin America. Socialist, communist, and going down, bringing Juan Guaido. He stunk in Latin America. He was awful in Latin America, and I thought there would be a chance. He sucked on foreign policy as well. Absolutely better than Biden, and that's not saying much. But the fact is that nobody ever draws the line to say, okay, listen, why do you think there's so much migration? Going to Honduras and talking to people, and they're saying, in 2017, our friends just fucking took off to America. They said, no way, you're going to stand by these rules. You're going to support Juan Orlando Hernandez, who's a fucking narcotics trafficker and not the deserving winner. So fuck this. You're turning our country into hell. We're coming your way. Nobody ever draws that line to say, hey, man, if we stop messing around, because they sell this shit as like, oh, fam, we go over there and our companies are allowed over there, so now you can buy the banana for really cheap. That shouldn't be the answer. The answer should be like, okay, we should stop fucking around with our country and stop propping up these situations where one corporation can make money. We should start growing a lot of bananas in our own country. So therefore we can make money ourselves and give jobs and whatnot. They don't sell it properly. They sell it like, we have to do this so you get your products cheaply. That's what they fucking sell it at. And it's just fucking craziness. Because the number 2 popular Republican right now is Ron DeSantis. And he's more of a fucking gusano than goddamn Donald Trump is. He is like anti-Nicaragua. He's like, we should have never let this go in Cuba. So this is a problem we're going to be facing right now when it comes to battling what they're doing down over here. Sorry. Maduro.
So Maduro, again, this is him at another interview courtesy of Castrochan News.
Nuestra alianza es una alianza de pueblos. Es muy diferente a otras alianzas. Nuestra alianza es para la paz, para la identidad compartida en la diversidad. Nuestra alianza es para el desarrollo conjunto, común. Y bueno, grandes éxitos se han tenido en la primera etapa del ALBA. Quizás el gran reto hacia adelante es la economía, que es lo más difícil, es lo más complejo. Ir integrando capacidades económicas para la producción, para la satisfacción de las necesidades de los pueblos. Retomar el sucre y el consejo monetario que tenía el ALBA en un momento dado. es un instrumento que tiene una gran vigencia hacia adelante. ¿Para qué? Para promover el comercio entre los países, un comercio poderoso al lado de proyectos comunes de desarrollo económico. Quizás son los grandes desafíos hacia adelante. La economía como eje central del desarrollo, del crecimiento y de la garantía de la producción de riqueza para el estado de bienestar. Nuestros pueblos ya tienen elementos muy avanzados de un estado de bienestar propio, pero para sostenerlo necesitamos producir riqueza. Para distribuir riqueza hay que producirla.
So he was talking about how they're going to strengthen the economy, and so the economy can provide more for the state or for the people, right? The people. By welfare state, it's not a good translation. It's almost like he means the people. He means like the to provide for the people. So right now that they don't have that the economy is a very complex issue, because he gets hit on a lot about the economy because of the sanctions and because of how they're dealing with it. And so one of our friends who went to Venezuela talked about how it is like hard for people to stay there, but a lot of them are staying there because they know that they have to fight against all this other bullshit, because if they leave, then it's like there's no people there left to fight, and like it's hard to fight against the sanctions. But there's been some improvements in terms of like trade and stuff, because they're building these alliances with China, with Iran, and all these other nations that are subjected to U.S. hegemony.
But we've talked about this too. They have soil for every type of food out there necessary in Venezuela, so they have to find a way to make it work the way Daniel Ortega made it work in Nicaragua. The fact that they're 95% food efficient in Nicaragua, they got to get that in Venezuela. This is something that has to be done. We haven't been there to see the terms and the conditions and stuff. We obviously know the sanctions and the blockade, but they got to make it happen, Captain, somehow. So I'm rooting for them. When he talks about the economy, make it happen. Find a way and make it happen. So.
Yeah, and I think they're getting closer to doing that now more than ever, which kind of begs to question what's the U.S.'s move. So this is President of Bolivia, Luis Arce, who was giving thank you to Cuba for their aid in the 2019 coup against, of course, Evo Morales. After that coup, the Bolivian people were really suffering, and then came COVID, and so the Cuban people actually came to their rescue. So he was thanking them. So let's hear what he has to say.
Esperaba mucho estar aquí en este precioso país para que a nombre de mi pueblo, mi gobierno, pedirle perdón a Cuba, a sus profesionales de la salud de este país, por los abusos y múltiples formas de agresión que padecieron en noviembre de 2019 de parte de quienes interrumpieron la continuidad democrática en mi país. Nunca será suficiente para reconocerle a Cuba el gran apoyo que nos brindó en el campo de la salud y en su colaboración para ser el tercer país libre, Bolivia, del analfabetismo de América Latina y el Caribe.
Yeah, so basically, he was saying, I apologize to Cuba we apologize to Cuba, Bolivia, for what they had to do to help us out during that time, and the medical aid that they sent. We know that Cuba was sending medical aid during the pandemic for a lot of people. And in fact, their vaccine is reported to be the most effective as of now. And they have an extensive medical advancement in terms of medicine in Cuba, because they've been like subjected to being completely like self-reliant on their own. And so it's interesting, like nations like Cuba, how they've been able to really help other people out in spite of the boot of the U.S. empire. And also the fact that their vaccines are different. They're not mRNA vaccines, and their vaccines are not accepted. If you take one, you that doesn't count.
Only, to travel, right?
Yeah, you can't travel with that to the United States. It has to be one of their designated vaccines. So it's kind of crazy, but that's just the way it is. So anyway, there's just I'll just talk through this, Oz. You can just play it. There's just like a meeting. There's like I believe that is Ortega and Canal, the president of Cuba, and Nicaragua embracing in a hug. And I believe, and let's see, what else?
That's similar to the hug that Daniel Ortega gave me. Well, he just gave me a good handshake and looked me in the eye and said, "Thank you, Yankee, for coming to spread the news."
Say that. Diaz-Canel
His
and
eyes said
embracing.
it, fam. His eyes said it.
So, guys, just so you guys know, I mean, it's kind of, they had the whole thing live, but it just in summary, they basically are talking about the economy, post-pandemic issues, dealing with the imperialist countries like that weren't there, the United States, and just building coalitions to work together to get their economies and trade. Trade was really a huge part of the discussion to get the trade back on track. And the reason we're talking about it is because we obviously went to to Nicaragua, and we want to go to more of these countries to really talk about, what is next for them to really kind of protect, in a way, the truth, to keep that away to the U.S. empire from continuing to promote these coups that they continue to promote.
Well, let me say this much. If the Renaissance Act cuts off the trade with Nicaragua and their beef, a lot of their beef goes to Florida. I guess they have new customers in Venezuela and Cuba that will pick up the slack, if they stay within each other. That's the thing that, since Nicaragua was good at food efficiency, maybe they can help these other countries out, whatnot. But as we've been told and as we've been seeing, food is showing back up on the shelves in Venezuela and whatnot. So it looks like they are starting to get things together. Hopefully, America won't throw one of their imperialist grenades in there. Hopefully, they're too occupied with other things, and these people can grow and strive and whatnot. And that would really help the migration situation out for all those patriots out there who go, we got to build a wall. Well, if we don't get involved and we allow these people to succeed, they'll be able to feed themselves. They'll be able to take care of themselves. They won't have to come here. You have to realize that. That's what it's all about.
There's not even many people going into the United States, actually, from our friend that was in government in Mexico. She was saying how, it's low. Yeah. People aren't going into the United States from Mexico anymore. In fact, the people that left are coming back into Mexico. So the whole wall situation, the caravans were mostly from Honduras. There were some from Guatemala, but most of them were from Honduras because of what happened. So now that Honduras has a new presidency, I bet some of these people are going to come back. People came back to Nicaragua as well. So we'll see what happens.
There are people I've met from Honduras that have come here and be like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
This is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. You got homeless people all over the place over here. The jobs are paying nothing. It's like, I could have got this back in my own country. I'm getting the hell out of here. And that's what's happening. America is falling apart.
One of the election observers actually tweeted out the other day, Ari, I think he was one of the election observers. He was like, so my parents are visiting me in Nicaragua, and they're so astounded that there's not a homeless person here at all. Yeah. And people, I didn't expect Nicaragua to be that organized and clean, but
I saw maybe two homeless people.
That's why we keep talking about it. We're like, wait a minute, this is crazy.
What's going on? Yeah.
Okay, so for this next section, guys, it's going to be Rokfin only.
Yep, we're out of here.
So I got to text Johnny, Rokfin only, Johnny. We're going to, if one of you guys could put it in the chat. So we're going to go on Rokfin only, guys. We can't really talk about this stuff, but I'm just going to tell you the title of what we're going to talk about. A peer-reviewed medical journal scolds COVID leaders for pushing the, quote, pandemic of unvaccinated. So that is the narrative that the CDC is pushing. A lot of, not just the CDC, but a lot of doctors, a lot of people, in the mainstream are pushing. So there was a peer-reviewed journal that scolded them about this. So that's what we're going to be talking